Hey everybody, this is Brett Ingram and this is the optYOUmize podcast, the show that helps entrepreneurs build their dream business and dream life. Today we're talking with Idan Shpizear, founder and CEO of 911 Restoration, a disaster restoration franchise ranked among the top franchises in the United States by Entrepreneur. He's a true coming to America story. The son of an Israeli farmer, he moved to the United States after completing his service in the military and began his business journey. I'm super excited about this because I'm always fascinated to learn a new story. And when there's one that's inspiring like that, I can't wait to get his perspective. So with that, welcome Idan and thanks a lot for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Yeah, excited. Talk to you.
Fantastic. So I have a lot of stuff I want to ask you, but I have to start off with your background. So you arrived in the U.S. with just an $800 Volvo. Can you tell us about that experience?
No, so yeah, I arrived to the US with about $1,000. The first car that we bought, me and my ex-partner in the business, was a Volvo 1978. I think we bought it for $600. It wasn't even $800 Volvo, but yeah, that's kind of our journey here. This is how we started.
That's incredible. And so what did you do when you first got here? Obviously, you didn't, come to the country and start a business. So what did you get up to first?
Yeah, so somebody was nice enough to give us a job as a carpet cleaners. So basically, the guy that owned a carpet cleaning company used to send coupons once a week, used to get phone calls, $29, we clean 3 rooms, and then it's up for us to go and try to get it to $100 to $150 and on and on. That was our welcome to America kind of first gig. It was actually great because we didn't really speak the language. We didn't really know anything about America, and especially here about LA and the culture and how things work. So that was a good opportunity for us just to get out there and just see what we can do with it. So we went through a 2 days training. He gave us the carpet cleaning. It was called a Ninja, right? So it's a carpet cleaning machine, a few chemicals, shampoo for carpet and so on and on. And basically, good luck. Go and bring some business.
And then once you get in the house, it's up to you to say, hey, I'll do this part for $29, or if you want me to do the rest of your house, it'll cost this amount. And I'm sure that really was a great education from a sales perspective and just a people perspective in general, right? Building relationships, dealing with people, all of those kinds of things. You learn that on the fly when you're thrown into an environment like that.
Absolutely. So not only learning sales and working with people in the culture is also learning the language, right? So you can imagine our first few months in the business, we don't even have the vocabulary to really explain them the process of cleaning the carpet and why it's important and on and on. So we use our hands. We try to describe it as best as we can. And a lot of it was actually showing them examples. Like, this is a steam cleaning, this is a deeper cleaning, this is how it's going to look after. So it was a lot of that. But when you cannot really speak the language, I think you get so sensitive to body movement and really understand, okay, do I understand me? How they're reacting back to me? It's more listening than talking, right? So a lot of the things that we used to do is we used to ask a question and then shut up because we want them to speak because we don't have the vocabulary for it.
But, you bring up something there that's really, really fascinating and I think so true. We rely so much on our ability to communicate verbally like that oftentimes those nonverbal cues we don't pick up. But if you're in a situation where, I know this when my family has traveled internationally, if we don't speak the language, you're sort of watching and kind of reacting to how they're reacting to to figure out what they mean. And I can see how that would really help develop your skills and kind of fine tune your understanding of how people are reacting and how to affect that based on what you're saying and what you're doing. That's fascinating.
Yeah. And you're actually listening to what they're saying, right? And going through that process, even though I was aware of it before, but then because I wanted them to speak more than me because of our ability to speak English, But you really start seeing that, wow, listening to people, it's such a big gift to give them, right? Because how many people do you hear, even couples, right, friends, like, can you just listen to me? Can you just listen to me? But then you come and you show up and you're just listening to people. And they're like, wow, I don't know why, but I love you. You're actually hearing me out, right? So,
It is fascinating. I forget who said it, but I was listening to somebody speak, and they were saying most people, when they're in a conversation, they listen with the intent to respond
yeah.
instead of the intent to understand. And when you change your perspective on that and you start to listen with the intent to understand, not only does the other person feel more heard, but you also, I've found anyway, because I'm guilty of it. I've been in conversations where I couldn't wait to get, say my next thing. But at the same time, I've also actively listened. And I have to say, just the development and the growth that I've experienced from being able to do that is phenomenal. It is a really profound situation like that.
Yeah, you can really add value to somebody if you're really listening to him. Because there's always the message underneath what he's actually saying. And when you start picking up on the message underneath, now you can come back and ask, I'm hearing you saying 1, 2, but you know what? What about that? Oh, now that you're asking me, you know what? I feel so comfortable and I want to talk to you about it. Now you're really building relationship. Now you can really add value, right? Because many times, you know how it is. You ask people, how are you? And he's like, yeah, I'm great. And then you keep talking for another 10 minutes and that, you know what? Are you sure you're great? Because it sounds like something is happening. You know what, Idan? If you're asking, I'm not doing that good. Okay, now we're getting into the second truth. I'm always looking for the third truth because this is where magic is. This is where we can really help people.
I really like that, and I have to say, it's just a great way, I think, to go about things, because I believe at the core, business is all about relationships anyway. So, all right. So from there, what was your first professional step to being an entrepreneur? So obviously, you got some experience on the job doing that, but what made you think? Was there a turning point? Was there something that made you realize, you know what, I want to own a business as opposed to just going to people's houses and doing work for somebody else?
So I think I always not even recognize it in myself. I think I always had that bug in me that, I just want to get out there and do things, right? I had these two things in me. One, there's a part of me that want to hide. I don't want to be in front of people. And then there's another part of me is like, just get out there and make shit happen, right? So when we cleaned carpet for some time and we saw the opportunity in the restoration space, at that point, I'm like, okay, can we go and do it on our own, right? I can see that based on what I'm recognizing in the market and the company that I work for, and they want to do carpet cleaning and there's a certain culture, and I want to move more into the restoration, water damage, mold and fire and on and on. But also, I think I can add more value if I do it the way I think it needs to be done, right? So it was always, can I add more value? Can I do it uniquely through my own eyes, right? Not thinking necessarily I want to be entrepreneur. I just want, like, can I add more value? Can I do it in my way? And of course, yeah, there's a big, like, I want to make a lot of money and I want to grow and I want to do all this thing. But the driver was, I think there's a better way to do it. I recognize this piece and I recognize another piece, and I see that something in the market is missing. Especially when I got into the restoration space, talking about listening to people and really paying attention to what people are going through. So the first time that I saw a water damage, somebody going through a water damage experience, I'm like, okay, I see that the person in front of me is going through an emotional disaster. I see that the companies that is taking care of the water damage are not even paying attention to the homeowner. They're just making a bigger mess and getting him to sign this big contract. I'm there as the carpet cleaner. I'm standing with the homeowner, not knowing anything about this business. And I'm like, don't worry, it's going to be fine. I know that you worry about this and that, and I'm sure they're going to be able to work it out. And after seeing it a few times, I'm like, okay, There's got to be a better way of doing it. There's got to be a way that I can take care of the homeowner, really understand what he's going through, and then go back to the structure itself. Right? So it's got to be a win-win. It doesn't have to be, if it's a water damage, no, that's what we need to do, and we need to get out, and we need to build the insurance company. I'm like, all done. There's a husband and wife, a family right here going through a disaster. We have to pay attention to them. So that really was my driver here. Right?
That's great. And I think, you hit on something really important there. I think that in any business, right, if you are focused on providing value and you're finding where that value isn't being provided yet and you're able to do that, that's really the wealth, the success, all the other things that people think about are the byproducts of that, not it in and of itself. And I think that so many people get it reverse. They think about it from the perspective of how can I make the most money? And ironically, it's actually the opposite. When you flip it around and you say, how can I provide the best service? How can I serve a need or a market or a niche that isn't being served? That's when the rest of it all happens. Yeah. And so whether you knew that intuitively or whether, it's just, I don't know, but, good for you, because obviously you recognize that early on, which I think is fantastic. So like most entrepreneurs, obviously in the early days, you had to work really long hours. You know what I mean? I'm sure you were living in a cramped space like we're all used to. How did you maintain your motivation and focus during that time when you knew that, okay, you got to put in a lot more than what you're getting out initially?
Yeah. So one way, I didn't really have a choice, right? So, we didn't, as I grew up financially, we didn't do very well. I came here just with $1,000. It's not like I had something to fall back on, right? We were 5 guys in 1-bedroom apartment. And I also I grew up in a farm, right? So hard work, being out in the field, working long days, doing whatever we need to do to help the family, to make things happen. I think it was just part of the way I grew up. So for me, actually it was exciting for me. It was exciting to see that we're actually creating something, that we're actually interacting with clients, that we're going through something and we see the growth. It wasn't a huge growth in the beginning, right? So it's going from, making 2,000 and then 4,000 and then 6,000, but you see the growth and you're reinvesting back in the business. So there's that level of excitement. Yes, of course, there is days that, especially here in LA, I remember we're sitting in the car for like 5-6 hours, there's traffic and we're exhausted and been a long day, and you just drove for 3 hours to see a client and he canceled on you in the last second. And of course there's these days, but overall, I think there is excitement of, wow, we're actually putting effort in and we see things working out. And I can start seeing how I'm going from, I came here with no money and this what's going on, but wait a second, we have $500 in the saving account. Oh, that's nice. Okay, so it's growing. Oh, we work with a few more clients. We have some clients that want us to come back to them right now. Oh, we are actually adding value. This thing is working. There's something here that is working for us, right? So it's just the excitement and keep going. I honestly look back at that time of really, when you're like chicken with no egg, right? Head. You're just running around all day and you're trying to figure things out and you're making a mistake and you're falling and you're getting. That was, I think that was an amazing time. I look back at that time like that was fun. Like we didn't really know anything. We just tried everything just to make sure that we're getting our next phone call.
Yeah, that is, and you touched on something there I think is also really important. And it's another one of these things that's a little bit ironic. As human beings, a lot of us have a tendency to want safety. We want security. We want something to fall back on. The irony is when we don't have that, oftentimes there is no other option. So we're going to find a way to make it work, right? Yeah. When we have a safety net, our odds of failure go way up because at that point there is another way out. There's another alternative. When there is no alternative, you're sort of like, I don't care how hard it is. I don't care how many hours it is. I've got to keep going and make this work because I don't have another option.
Yeah.
And I think there's a really important lesson in there, especially nowadays. I know, the younger generation gets maligned all the time for, not being resilient and all this stuff. And I mean, you could argue for days, yes or no on that. But the fact is, just as human beings, I think it's really important to go into things with the mindset of, instead of, hey, I'll give this a try, let's not be afraid of failure. Let's lean in and say, I'm going to commit to making this work. If I'm passionate about this, even if I have a safety net, if I'm passionate about this and this is what I love to do, and this is where I think I can make an impact and change the world, I'm going to do this and I'm going to find the way to make it work no matter how many adjustments or tweaks I need to make along the way. Instead of, I'll give it a shot, and if it doesn't work out, I'll just go back to my other thing.
Yeah. You know what? Every so often when I speak to our franchisees or new people that want to come and join the franchise, I tell them, listen, I can tell you my success story in 60 seconds. But if you want me to tell you about my failures, probably we need to sit here for 3 months, right? So it's the action, it's the movement forward that help us see how things are unfolding. I didn't think in the beginning that I want to be a franchise. I didn't think in the beginning that I want to open a marketing company and many other things that I got myself into. It was just kind of showed up as we were present and committed and completely devoted to, we're going to figure that out. We understand that business exists to add value. Our goal is to add value in every opportunity that we have. And yes, at some time we got too excited and we opened extra businesses, so we did things that shouldn't be done. But it's easy to look at it as failures in a way, but I wouldn't understand the things that I understand today if I didn't went through the experience that I've been through. Right? To experience that you get to the end of the month and there's no money to pay payroll, and you still need to show up to the office and you need to meet with your team and tell them that, listen, I'm going to pay you in a week from today. I can read about it in books all day long, but until you go through it and it's in your nervous system, it's not the same, right?
I fully agree, and I love the point you made about the idea that the action of doing the things reveals the answers. It reveals the path. Too many times we try to focus on creating the perfect path, making the perfect strategy. It's just like the old boxing thing that Mike Tyson said. Everyone's got a plan till they get in the ring and they get hit, right? you can have the best plan. It's not going to work out that way. I can promise you. So it's better to fail fast, make adjustments fast, and get back on track than it is to think about the possibility of failure, trying to plan against failure for so long, and then finally getting started only to realize, it didn't go the way I wanted it to go anyway, and now I still have to make the adjustments. So I love that approach, and I couldn't agree more. Okay, so fast forward. You grew. Do you go by 911 restoration or 9/11?
911 restoration.
That's what I figured.
Yeah,
so you grew 911 restoration from a small carpet cleaning company into a nationwide restoration franchise. What were some of the biggest challenges that you faced going through that transition? Because I know that building a small business is very different than building a big business.
Oh yeah, very, very different. Yeah, small business, you can get by even, $1.5, $2 million in revenue by just, we used to say, everything is in my head. I'm just going to explain it to you quickly, but let's go, right? There's X amount of people. You see them every day. You're at the same office. You're leaving. You're coming back to the same place. You're driving between jobs so you can have more control. The moment that you're going to go to a bigger business, and now we have 120 plus owners and on, thousands of people in the system, you need to start implementing processes. Right? You need to start seeing, okay, this is department, this is how the lead flow, this is how the information flow, who is doing what, and here and there. That was a big leap for us, right? Because for a long time, I didn't really think about strengths and weaknesses. My thought was, okay, we're just going to do everything, right? If whatever you need me, I'm jumping in, I'll be 24/7. And then when you grow, now I cannot do everything. And I spend a lot of time trying to do everything. And at one point, I'm like, what I'm doing? I am not an operation guy. I'm not an accountant. It took me a while to get to this point. Right? So that was, and then you start saying, okay, so how my team supposed to look like based on where I want to be, where I am, and what the business needs right now. Right? So that was a good jump forward. Right? So bringing people that are really great in operation and understanding also when I work on my strength, you build the momentum in the business, right? So how you don't lose momentum when the business is growing by really aligning people, by really having a strong team. So that was a big change for us. And then the level of accountability, right? Because a lot of people look at accountability as like, why would you like, don't micromanage us, just let us do what we want to do, how are we going to work this way, and now the culture is being affected. Because there's some level of negativity associated with accountability. Yeah. And I'm like, no, accountability is a gift, right? I will actually help you shine by implementing accountability into the business, right? So we went through all the process of elevating the team, job description, accountability, different processes, really helping people develop within the company, right? So that was one of the changes going from small business to a bigger size business. And then the culture part, right? There was for a long time, I'm finding myself that one of the main things that I talk about is what's the vision, what's the culture, why it's important, and how we're embodying the culture. Right? How do I get now from being maybe me and another person talking about the culture and vision? Now I need 100 people to adopt the culture and vision. Now I need 500 people to adopt the culture. So how do you make it real? How do I take something that can be abstract and bring it down so can relate to our technician, to our inspector, to the franchise owner, to the people in our office? Right? So you going from a small business, I'm running around, I'm closing job, I'm sending technician, I'm bringing equipment, I'm buying lunch, to wait a second, I need to build a team and accountability. Oh, hold on, now we have culture, now with the vision, and how I'm connecting everybody to the vision, right? So that was a journey. And then marketing. I mean, part of the marketing for many years, we sold pretty early, right? So part of the thing, the reason that I was able to scale the business at the beginning is 2003, when everybody advertised in Yellow Pages. I'm having dinner in a restaurant, right? Everybody's Yellow Pages and magazine and on, and I'm hearing two people speak about advertising online. That was in 2003. They said about Google, and you can put an ad up online, and this is how you can generate leads. And I'm sitting there and I'm listening. I says, okay, that sounds very, very interesting. I went back home that night, spent hours online, try to figure out how can I advertise online. I didn't have a website then. And then I figure out, you know what, I'm going to put ads online, and instead of a website, I'm just going to put my phone number. So people don't even need to click. They can just call me straight from there, from the part. And 24 hours, I got my first phone call, the second phone call, third phone call, right? That's how we really scaled the business.
That's amazing.
And then at one point, and then I said, you know what, if I can do it here, I can probably generate leads in many other places in the United States, right? And then Katrina happened, and I met other restoration contractors, and I said, okay, I see here, how can I do 1 + 1 = 5, right? And I explained why, because at that point, I grew my business already, and I'm brand new to the country, I'm learning the language, learning the culture, and I'm meeting people that have been in the business for 10, 15, 20 years, and they're doing 500,000 in revenue, 700,000 in revenue. I'm like, what's going on here? There's nothing special with me. I'm just trying to figure things out. But then as I spend more time with them, I notice that they are really passionate about the trade itself. So they will spend hours talking to me about blowers and dehumidifiers, and I'm thinking leads and growth and scale and vision. What's going on here? And then I understand that this is the part that they're missing. So I asked them, listen, would you want to go and grow the business from 700,000 to 1.5? It's like, of course, this was our dream. We want to grow, but it's hard because of here and all that stories that we tell ourselves, right? And then I says, okay, so I know how to generate leads, and I can talk to you about how to really scale, and really we can go from 700 to 1.5, and I'm sure we can do it pretty fast. So I did it with one person, and then the second one, the third one. It's working, and it's working, and it's working. And like I can really add value to these guys. It's really 1 + 1 = 5 here. So when I had 10 people that I did it with, and I used a license agreement, I didn't even think about a franchise.
Right.
The lawyer that wrote the license agreement for me came, is like, Idan, you're becoming a franchise. You cannot keep doing the license agreement. I'm like, okay, so what I need to do now? What do you mean becoming a franchise? And then it took me about 12 months. I went through the process of franchise agreement and FDD and processes and all this headache. It's a pain. It's a different, but the attitude is like, okay, we can see the value. I did it with 10 people. It's working. Why? How can I add value now to 20 people, 30 people, 50 people, and on and on? And that's really how we became a franchise. It was all about, can I add value?
It's amazing, but the one thing too in there that I think is really important, and it's an important lesson for everybody to take, is that part of what made you realize to try the ads was, yes, it was the fact that you were in the right place at the right time, but it's also that you always had your ears and eyes open for opportunity. You always had that in the back of your mind. How can I grow? How can I add more value? How can I expand what I'm trying to do? And so you paid attention. There would have been other people in that same seat with those people right next to them, and they would have got up, walked off, and went turn on the TV and did what they were going to do. So kudos to you to, the fact that you recognize there's an opportunity here, you listen, and then you did your own work to figure out how to make that fit for what you were doing. You mentioned company culture a few times, and I think that's super important, obviously, especially as we grow, because as you mentioned, when we're small, we roll up the sleeves. The structure of what we're doing doesn't matter much because we're all just doing what needs to get done. Once you get to a certain point, that no longer works. So you have to have these other things, but the more people that you add, the more difficult it is to have everybody pulling in the same direction, feeling the same way, embodying that same company culture. Are there certain things you did? Because I know that you said, your company really focuses on creativity, empathy, continuous development. What are the things that you did to create that and make that sort of embodied in your entire organization?
So first of all, showing up that way as the founder, the CEO, actually embodying it, right? I think that is a big, big, big thing, right? So when I'm saying to people, listen, empathy and listen, I cannot show up to meeting with my team and not listen to them, right? And it's important to really choose a culture that is truthful to who you are, right? Because you can fake it for so long, right? But if this is not really part of who you are and the way you behave, so first of all, that alignment is a big one. And I see it today even with smaller businesses, right? I see with our franchisees and other businesses that I work with, the business owner will tell his team, we are going to be great and we're going to be kind and we're going to be that. And then he shows up to the business every morning and keep pointing out what's wrong in the business. Like, oh, okay, that's not going to work because you're not embodying it. So that's really where it starts, right? It's really you being truthful and embodying it. And then through communication, it's really the way we communicate with our team. If it's the emails, if it's the meeting, if giving them space to speak, if really seeing, if I want to have innovation and growth and the level of communication and kindness, I need to, first of all, is the people that I bring into the company.
Yep.
Right? So sometime, and we all go through it, right? You have one person in the company in sales or other things that is just killing it, but his attitude is not matching the company's attitude, right? And many times we'll say, but you know what? Let's give him another 6 months. Maybe he's going to change, but he's right, producing right. I learned, took some time, no, culture first, right? Because one person can really kill the culture for everybody else. So that part is very important. So communication, the way we're showing up, and celebrating when we are actually aligned with our culture, right? That is the big thing. So I will point out, and we do the same thing with kids, right? What you point out, what you focus on will grow. So sometime I'll in a meeting, I'll bring up how one person was very kind or show up in a certain way for other people, right? I'm not necessarily going to show first who have the best sales record. I'm going to bring that first because this is an important and this is the culture, right? So this, at one point I put certain sentences on people's shirt, right? Hopefully to start a certain conversation about what is it that we're really about as a company. Right? At the convention with the franchisees, I got people to share their story of fresh start. At one point, I sent people with, with cameras and, creating videos of people of what fresh starts mean to them and what really, how can we bring fresh start to their life as a company, right? So it's really, for me, the same thing with the marketing is really listening and paying attention. Okay, I see an opportunity here. I see the way they communicate here. I see how they're showing up to the meeting. How can we change it? How can we start the morning in a different way to really celebrate the fresh start attitude? So it's never ending.
Yeah, I have to say, I agree with, first off, the example you gave about the salesperson is killing it, but they don't fit the culture and it's eroding everybody else's belief in what's going on is so true. And it's worth getting rid of somebody like that and losing those sales because the long-term effect is far worse otherwise. So I'm 100% lockstep with you on that. I've seen that play out over and over again, and they always get a pass. The rules don't apply to them because of their production. And to the same other side of that same coin is what you talked about so you have a sales meeting, and if the first thing that you're doing is you're just putting up sales numbers, then what people hear is, and what they feel is, sales are the only thing that really matters. This culture stuff is all fine and good, but it doesn't really matter. When you start off by rewarding, talking about reinforcing all the things that are culture first, and then you go to the sales things, people understand, yes, sales are important. We've got to generate the numbers, right? We have to stay in business. We have to make a profit. But these other things are then important. And when you are walking that walk and talking that talk, it's unmistakable. And then what happens is your organization becomes self-selecting because people that don't fit that mold won't want to be there. If they don't agree with those values, if they don't align with those values, they're going to pick up and leave. You don't even need to get rid of them because they're going to say, you know what, all I care about is crushing numbers. I don't want all this other stuff. And so they're going to leave anyway. And so I think, and I also love the idea that you talked about alignment with being authentic with who you are, because I see this actually in the other realm. I see this a lot as social media. So you have these people that create these personas online because they think it's the thing that's going to get them the attention, and it works. It'll get them the attention, but it's exhausting because it isn't real. So you're constantly putting up a front, an image, and you've got to maintain that. And over time, it just wears you down. When you aren't who you really are, it's better to be who you are. Just be comfortable with that and let people that resonate with that come to you, because you'll all work together and it'll be comfortable and everybody will be happy. So
absolutely.
I love all that stuff. Let's talk about marketing a little bit. So you spent thousands of hours mastering online marketing techniques, and you use that to significantly grow. Do you have advice that you could give to entrepreneurs, maybe even if they're small business, right? And they want to leverage digital marketing to be able to grow?
Absolutely. I mean, it's really, for me, it's always go back to the base. What is it that you're really doing as a company, right? You're not, how many times I meet with people and they're, carpet cleaner or plumber or construction or remodelers and on and on. And I'm saying, this is not what you actually do. That's maybe physically it's what you do, but emotionally it's not what you do. People are making decisions based on pain or pleasure, right? We heard that for many, many, many years. The reason that that person called you is because there's a certain pleasure that he's trying to bring into his life. So I want a brand new space. I want to be able to do more with my life, or I want to move away from pain, right? So as a company, you are coming to help me get to the pleasure that I want to get, or help me move away from the pain, right? So for example, if you're building kitchens for people, you're really helping them to achieve a certain dream. It's not about the physical kitchen, right? Think about, as a mother that I live in my house for 20 something years, and for 10 years, I'm having this dream of having my dream kitchen. And my husband and I saved money and here and there, and now we can do it. That's what our job, right, in adding value is really helping them see how we're helping them reach the dream that they have. So if you look at yourself that way as a company, the way you communicate with your clients will change, right? In our mission statement, in what we do, that's why I'm keep going back to the emotional disaster they're going through, because that's the service that I provide. By the way, I do it through mold, water, and fire damage, but that's not really the business that I'm in. This is the business that I'm in, right? So first of all, understand what is the real business that you are in, and the second part, who is your client, right? Not everybody is your client, right? So that's what we do all the time. Whiteboard in front of me, I will draw the clients, give them names, pets, kids, home, jobs, everything. And I'll see, okay, now I understand the real service that I provide, and I understand who is my client now, giving them name and everything, what they do, how they communicate, where they buy. I understand their buying cycle. And now I'm saying, okay, so what's the language now that I want to use to communicate with this person? And what is the buying cycle that the person is going through? If it's in the beginning of the buying cycle, middle, or close to the end of the buying cycle. And I'm identify these two things. And now I'm saying, okay, so where I'm going to meet with them and at one point, right? And you're going to have a different conversation if you speak with somebody that is thinking to build a new kitchen in a year from today,
right,
compared to somebody that is ready to install a new kitchen. Very different conversations. And then based on that, now that you have it in front of you, okay, so if somebody is in the beginning of his buying cycle, when I know that he's just doing a research, where can I be in front of him? And how much money I'm willing to spend on that lead, know that it's probably is going to buy from me in 6 months from today. So maybe here it's a social media opportunity, right? I can kind of put the brand, put the dream, kind of put the beautiful kitchens that we created overall. So see where can I connect with them to the dream. Now, as we're getting closer to now, maybe they're thinking about budget. Now they're thinking how I'm going to afford it. Now they're thinking about how long it's going to take. Right? So kind of closing the gap. There's a dream, there is my life, there is a buying cycle, and online is really different opportunities for us to be in front of them. Right? So the online, it's only a tool. It's really where is their attention right now.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are getting lost into, so it's Instagram or nothing, or it's this or nothing. No, it's all going to change. It's changing all the time, and change is a beautiful thing. And we just need to learn how to ride the waves of change, but not get lost into the online tools. Right. Get lost into your clients. Get lost into what is the real value that you're adding. And then just write, here is all the tools that I have in front of me. And how can I leverage different tools at different time based on return investment, based on buying cycle. And there is today amazing ways, once you connect it with the client once, even if he didn't buy from you, you can really make sure that he's going to see you now over the next 10 months. And you change the content based on understanding his buying cycle. Does this make sense?
I think that's really powerful. And I also love the idea that, the tactics are just the way to do it. They're not the focal point, right? So it's not the platform, it's not the particular kind of ad, it's the messaging is the more important element. And then you can deploy different tactics here and there, different platforms. But at the end of the day, it's the same thing. It's trying to provide value for people, getting them where they need, and letting them see the vision and feel the emotion of whatever that, positive dream fulfillment or escape from the negative pain.
Yeah, and also there is another beautiful thing that happened when a business owner, and it's not only a business owner, that anybody that works for a company that really understand what he really does for people, it changed the way they look at themselves and it changed the way they communicate, right? I'll give you an example with my customer service team, right? So every so often we'll meet and kind of ask them, so what do you do every day? Oh, Idan, the phone ring, I'm answering the phone call, I'm asking some question, and then I dispatch the call to the franchisee. I said, okay, let's look at it now from a different perspective. What you actually do. If somebody is going through a disaster, he's hoping that he finds the right person to talk to, right? Because he's stressed and he's worried, he doesn't know what he's going to do. We are connecting that person with a real good service provider that's really going to help him get out of this terrible situation that he's in. So you're really helping people all day long that are going through a disaster, and you're connecting with them with the right person, so we know that they're going to have the fresh start, a positive outcome. Oh, now it feels different than just answering the phone call. And you see that the way that when just having that conversation, the person go from just answering the phone to, oh, whoa, okay, I'm actually doing something important here. Yes, you do. Right? And this is for everybody.
Purpose is so important in anything we're doing. And, sometimes if you look at it from the nuts and bolts side of it, things can seem less important or more important. But the reality of it is, if it's part of the system that all works together to provide the value for the customer, it all matters. Everybody has a different role to play. And as long as you're really good at the role that you play, then that's what matters the most. So, so you built a system, and, it helps people find purpose, success, and joy through strategic growth. How do you define success, and how has your definition of that evolved over the years?
Oh, in a huge way. Honestly, today, I'm getting to experience to the depth that we can experience every moment. For me, this is success. I understand that at the end of the day, the quality of our life is equal to our ability to experience every moment fully. That is for me success. As we be in more presence, as we be more aware, and we can really be where we are, not lost in our thoughts and worried about future and past and here and there. This is really, I think, I really think that fully experiencing the moment, that's the highest wealth that we can ever achieve. It doesn't matter how much and now I'm not talking about when we go through the survival part, right? Pay rent and bills and here and there, because yes, you are really in the survival part. But even if, it's hard to speak with people about it when they're going through the survival part. So I'm not preaching here to anybody. I'm just speaking about my own experience. It's one moment you see, and I understand it way before what I call the financial success. I think that actually helped me be a lot more successful financially, but even I look at the experience of every moment. That is wealth. Sitting there with whoever is in front of you and really being there with them and that level of connection, that's wealth, right? So in the beginning, I didn't look at it that way, right? But as I talk about listening and really hearing people and seeing how people coming together, and I'm going through my own experience, I'm like, okay, wow, I used to be living in my own head all the time. As I went through my own journey and brought more awareness and understand my thoughts and pattern, right? I went through 15 years of an inner journey, still on it, right? So as I go through my journey, I'm like, okay, wow, there's a big difference than living in your head to living right here, right now. And there's a long journey in between the two, right? Depends on your experience and on and on. And then at one point, I'm like, this is real wealth. While the world, society is selling us that success is out there, right? I need to achieve that and that growth and the house and the stuff and here and there. You recognize that the only way to really experience that level of wealth and success, it's right here, right now. And the funny thing that once you experience it more and more and more, everything else becomes so much easier. And your inner being is not dependent on external situation. And now you're saying, okay, why nobody's telling that to us at school? Why nobody talks about, I mean, of course there is, but you need to be as part of a certain circle, but we are so conditioned that everything is out there. You need also to fit into society. You need to be approved by everybody else, right? And this is what we've been so conditioned to think all this time. And so for me, that's wealth. I know I gave you a long answer, but that's
No,
for me.
I love that. I mean, look, I think this is why you see such an explosion of the whole mindfulness movement and people trying to slow things down, because we've gotten to a point of efficiency and intensity with things where it's always more, faster, better, bigger, more, faster, better. And that cycle is unsustainable. You get to a point where not only do you burn out, but you realize there's no finish line. So it doesn't matter how much you do that for. At some point, all you've got, all you're left with when you strip the rest of it away is, like you said, it's your awareness in the moment. It's the experiences that you go through and your appreciation for that stuff. And the old saying that they used to always tell us, in business is that, nobody ever said when they got to the end of their life, geez, I wish I spent more time at the office. You know what I mean? It was always more about your relationships, the quality of the experiences you had. And I'll tell you a funny thing. When my wife and I have been married 26 years, and we started dating 3-4 years younger than that. So we were kind of kids when we started. And one of the funniest things is when we first met, we had this, I wouldn't say it's an argument, but we had a difference of the way that we saw the world. Her perspective, my perspective was stuff. Oh, well, if I have $1,000, I'm going to go buy a stereo, a computer, or whatever, because it's durable. It's something that I get to keep and use and over. And she's like, it's all about experiences. You're much better off to take that money and go on a trip. And I thought how ridiculous that was at the time. Once I got older and I started to mature and I thought it through, I'm like, she's so right. Because I don't remember all the stuff that I bought, and I don't even care about it. But I remember all the trips we took as a family. I remember all the special stuff that we did. And it isn't even about the spending of the money. It's the point of how you allocate the time you've got. We all have 24 hours in a day. Yeah. And obviously we've got to do some stuff professionally to, pay bills and all that other kind of stuff. But then we have choices to make in terms of how we do what we do with the rest of it. And I 100% agree. I think that, people struggling for survival aside, if you have the ability to be in the moment and enjoy things for what they are, then there is no higher value than that. So I think that's awesome. I really do. So
yeah, absolutely. And then kind of touch back what we talked about social media, right? It's how people are wasting, and I know because we're conditioned and we're not aware of it, wasting their life trying to fit in and canceling their own uniqueness, right? So when I work with people, and I'm not doing it as often, one of the things that I do, I bring them back to their own beingness. Like, can you let go of the external reality for a second and try to figure out who you are for a moment? What do you really like? What really get you tick? What get you going? When people go through that process, they are now working with such a creative force that they have in them, because they're not wasting so much energy in trying to caring so much about what other people think. Right? So when you go back to your first beingness and then you do what is aligned within your own innate abilities, this is where you see people go from 10 to 100 without extra effort. That's the thing that a lot of people think, I'm just going to work harder. And I'm says, listen, you are just fighting your own patterns. It's not going to work. You're going to keep banging your head. Just stop working harder, right? Because this idea of, if you're not doing it, do 60 hours a week, do 80 hours a week, right? That's what I used to think. And then when I went through the other process, I'm like, wait a second, I'm working less and everything is kind of falling in place in a beautiful way, because now you're working with the stream, right? So I think it's such an important part. One of the reasons that I'm here on the podcast and talking about, because I see so many, the same thing as myself, so I feel the pain of just, let's do it more and harder and harder. And like, hold on, you are so much more than what you think you are. You are so much more. You just need to realign.
Yeah, I like that. All right, so where can people find you, find your products, find your services, connect with you?
Yeah, so if you want to hear more about the franchise opportunity, 911restorationfranchise.com, and I'm more active on LinkedIn. So, and my name is so unique, so it's very easy to find me. It's Idan Shpizear, right? So yeah, I'll just come up.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for that. All right, I have one last question I have to ask, because I think it's really important, but I also am fascinated by what everybody's going to say. And that is, what's your number one tip for success as a business owner or an entrepreneur?
Get going and pay attention.
All right, I like that.
That's really
Action's the key. You gotta get moving. Otherwise, nothing's gonna happen just by thinking about it. So that's great advice. All right, with that, it's just about time to wrap things up. I want to thank you so much for sharing all your insights and great tips with us. Visit 911restorationfranchise.com for more information and see the success stories. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. And remember, no matter what you want from your business and your life, don't compromise, optYOUmize.